Very good morning, everyone. And uh, Quite a few people have already joined, and we are expecting some more to join in the next 5 minutes. So we'll be starting off in the next 5 minutes. So very good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for all of you who have joined the call today. Uh, as you all know, the topic of today's discussion is rebooting or restarting your business post COVID-19. And I'm sure you would all appreciate that almost all the businesses that have been running in the last 3 months, each one of us, regardless of how big or how small the business is, or how old or how new the business is, we have all suffered. 99% of the businesses have been under lockdown. 99% of the businesses would have zero revenues to show for in the last 2.5 to 3 months. So going forward, since the lockdown is getting removed and is getting removed gradually, businesses will start opening up, economy will start opening up, customers will start purchasing, customers will start making informed decisions when it comes to purchases. So going forward, the rules of the game would change dramatically, and it is very important for each one of us, regardless of how small or how big a business we are running, to adapt to the changes that this new world is presenting. So what I have done in my personal capacity over the last 3 months, because I had a lot of spare time and bandwidth, what I did was that I got the opportunity to interact with a lot of business operators. Some of them from the franchising business, some of them leaders in the franchising industry, and quite a few of them who do not come from the franchising business but come from different kind of businesses like export and import. There have been traders that I have interacted with. There are people who run large shows without even franchising. So what it has helped me is it has given me a perspective on what different leaders feel is going to happen going forward, and how each one of them is preparing for the tough road ahead. So I have collated all these thoughts, I have collated all these informations and advice that I have received from the different business leaders. And this is what I have captured in today's presentation. And this is what I would like to share with all of you. So this is how I will be talking about, and this is how the presentation will flow. So I'll start off by talking about Uclean Group, which I represent, which I founded almost 3.5 years back. Then we will talk about the impact that COVID-19 is having, and the impact that COVID-19 is having, particularly on small and medium businesses. Then we'll talk about what I call the mantra for survival. So at this point in time, as the markets start opening up, the most important question will be that of survival. The If you look at, or if you go through the news that is coming out, the news is not very promising. The news is not very encouraging, where NASCOM and all the other government bodies are talking about how a lot of the startups would end up winding up. Almost 33% of the startups are predicted to close down in the next couple of months. So I have put together what I call the survival guide, or the mantra to survive, especially for the small and medium scale businesses. And it's basically an 8 pointer agenda, which I feel that if we are able to implement correctly, we should be able to survive the next 6 months and then thrive from thereafter. The last is where I talk about what is happening, what is expected to happen, and how should businesses, especially the small and medium scale businesses and the franchise businesses, how should they prepare for the tough times ahead. So starting off with Uclean Group, and I'm pretty sure since a lot of you have attended multiple webinars in the past, so you have a fair understanding of what Uclean Group stands all about. But for the ones who have joined my webinar for the first time today, we are a company that started our journey about 3.5 years back, and we started as a laundry chain. So about 3.5 years back, I came up with the idea of Uclean, and the concept was to introduce the laundromat culture in India, which till that point in time was not very popular in the country. So we were outsourcing laundry, we were outsourcing our dirty clothes, but predominantly the business was being outsourced to the local dhobi. Now, the local dhobi actually enjoyed a relationship with the customers that they were servicing. And typically, if you look at the business of the local dhobi, you would realize that a lot of it is generational. So what I mean by generational is that the same local dhobi and his family have been servicing the same customer for years after years. So typically the grandfather of the local dhobi would be servicing the grandfather of the customer, then the father starts servicing the father of the customer, and now the son is servicing the son of the customer. So there's a very strong bonding that gets created, and a lot many times the customer outsources his laundry to the local dhobi because of this trust that has been built, this relationship that has been built over a period of time. So, but biggest challenge with the local dhobi, and if you look at the model very closely, is that you would realize that there is zero transparency, and it becomes very important in today's scenario. So the local dhobi, when you outsource your clothes to the local dhobi, when you give out the clothes, the dirty clothes, to the local dhobi for laundry, he would typically come to your place. He would pick up the clothes. He would then take the clothes to wherever he is washing it, and then after 3 or 4 days, he would deliver it back to you. So all that is good, but the challenge is that there is absolutely no transparency into where the clothes are getting washed, or how are they getting washed, or what are the kind of chemicals and detergents that are being used for washing the clothes. So this has always been the challenge with the local dhobi, and I used to hear this a lot about 3.5 to 4 years back, and that is what inspired me to start something which can, one, create that much needed transparency, and second, be able to offer services in a very professional manner. So with this background in mind, we launched uClean almost 3.5 years back and started developing a chain of laundromats across the entire country. In over a period of time, what we realized was that this is one business where the same customer keeps coming back to you again and again. So laundry is one such business which has a very high customer repeat frequency. If as a customer, I'm happy with you, if I'm happy with the quality of service that you're providing, and if I'm happy with the turnaround time that you're offering, I won't mind outsourcing my laundry to you week after week after week. And that is how laundry business is built up. That is how credibility is built up in the laundry business. So within the first 5 6 months of operations, we realized that this is one business where the customer would keep coming back to you, and the business can be very quickly scaled up, where almost every neighborhood of in India today has a potential for setting up a uClean store. So with this understanding, we took a conscious decision to go the franchisee route. The franchisee route allows us to quickly scale up, quickly enter all possible neighborhoods of India, at the same time be in a position where we can support every franchisee without investing too much time in operations ourselves. So the last almost 3 years, we have been franchising pretty aggressively. As of today, we are India's largest laundry chain, and we are also amongst the 5 largest brands globally when it comes to laundry services. So today we are present in more than 50 cities of India. We are also present in our first international location, which is Nepal, and we have been able to build all this credibility, all this credential over the last 3.5 years. What we also realized over the last 3.5 years is that the same customer who requires a laundry service today, at some point in time, he would also require a carpet cleaning service. He would also require a sofa cleaning service. He would also require a home deep cleaning service. So that's when we realize that the same customer, if he's comfortable with uClean today, why should all the carpet cleaning, sofa cleaning, or home deep cleaning service not come to us? So with this background, we started doing our own research, and we realized that the largest company in the world that specializes in services like carpet cleaning, sofa cleaning, full home deep cleaning is an American chain called ChemDry. And ChemDry today is the world's largest surface cleaning company, which works on the franchisee model and has a legacy which extends more than 50 years and has all patented and proprietary chemicals and solutions. So we reached out to ChemDry. We discussed the opportunity. They liked the growth story of uClean. So basis multiple rounds of discussion, they finally decided to reward the master franchise agreement for entire India to uClean Grow. So we signed up with ChemDry about almost a year back, and we have now started franchising ChemDry, where ChemDry is a unique man and van model where you don't need to set up a store, you don't have any rentals, you don't have any electricity bills, you don't have any water bill. It is just a vehicle, and there are people inside that vehicle, and the vehicle moves from one place to another, carrying out whatever cleaning services are being requested. Over a period of time, what we've also done is that we have formed strategic associations, including acquiring White Tiger, which used to be the largest dry cleaning chain across North India. But overall, what has happened is that one thing that we are really satisfied and one thing that we are really pumped up about is that despite scaling up very quickly, despite expanding to many cities and to even international locations, the feedback that we are getting from the customers is consistently very good. And hats off to our franchise partners who are the main reason behind these very high reviews. So as of today, Uclean enjoys a rating of more than 4.4 in an industry like laundry, where you would see that the typical rating hovers between 3 to 3.5. Despite being the largest laundry chain, we have been able to pull this off, and we have been able to pull this off because of the commitment shown by all our franchise partners. So now getting to what is happening right now, and I'm sure you all understand and you all appreciate that we are living in the most difficult of times. So COVID-19 or the coronavirus situation is something that none of us could have forecasted. None of us could have forecasted even 6 months back. We never thought that coronavirus would come India and hit India in a way that it is hitting today. If you follow the numbers, you would see that the numbers are increasing and the numbers are increasing exponentially. So till about 2 months back, India used to have about 500 cases per day, and today we are sitting on almost 10,000 cases per day. The death rate is increasing. There is no vaccine in sight, but at the same time, you cannot close down your business. We have already lost 3 precious months to COVID-19, and keeping the business closed any further would actually be fatal for a lot of us who are operating SMBs or small and medium businesses. So one thing that we all need to accept, one thing that we all need to realize is that this is the time where we need to start living with the COVID-19 virus. So we need to take all the precautions, like masks and gloves will become a routine, work from home will become a trend, social distancing will become natural, sanitizers will become an essential product, people will promote digital payments, people will promote contactless deliveries. And these are a few essential elements that every small and medium business or every franchise business will have to adapt to. So if you're running a small business, you need to make sure that your team members, your delivery boys, your staff members, they are regularly wearing the gloves, they are regularly wearing the masks, they're regularly wearing these masks and gloves when they're interacting with the customer or when they're carrying out any operations inside your premise. Sanitizer has to be there. Sanitizer has to be there at your home. It has to be there at the store location. It has to be there on any premise where you are running your business or which impacts your business. Digital payments is something that was already picking up in India, but it is going to become increasingly popular going forward. And as a small sized business operator, it is very important for us to constantly push our customers for digital payments. It gives them the confidence, it gives them the comfort that we are thinking about them. Doctor consultations are becoming virtual. So very large sized organizations like Apollo and Fortis have also launched their virtual consultation app because they also want to avoid bringing customers or doctors to the hospital. As it is, majority of the hospitals in India, especially in the tier 1 cities and tier 2 cities, are running at 100% capacity due to the COVID-19 situation. So during these times, venturing out to a hospital for a minor ailment like a cough and cold could be suicidal. So these are things that are going to become the norm. And these norms will not change anytime soon. Reason being that there is no vaccine in sight. There are a lot of American brands, there are a lot of Israeli brands, some Southeast Asian brands which are claiming that they have developed a vaccine. But at this point in time, these are mere claims. Nobody knows if the vaccine is successful, if the vaccine can be tested or not. Majority of the companies that are claiming that they have developed a vaccine are still doing animal testing. And animal testing is something that in itself will take at least a month to 2 months before they can be approved to be launched for mass production or for the people. So by the time any vaccine is successfully built and is given the approvals to be launched in the mass market, it would be at least October, November 2020. Then WHO has very clearly said that once the vaccine is introduced, it will take at least 3 to 6 months to reduce the number of cases to 50%. But even WHO does not know how much time will it take to completely eradicate the coronavirus from the continent or from the world. So we need to understand that this is one reality that we need to live with, and COVID-19 would now become the norm. And as a result of what is happening is that there are a lot of transitions that are happening. There are a lot of changes that are happening to the consumer behavior, and these changes in a way are irreversible. So if you look at what was happening till about end of 2019, fear of missing out, or what is popularly called FOMO in slang, was very popular. So people wanted to blend. People wanted to be accepted. So if you found that your friends are doing something, if a lot of your friends are doing something, you would also want to do it because you don't want to miss out on the fun. Some very simple example is how people used to consume food. So if you look at the last couple of years, you would see that when people would go out to a restaurant, including all of us, when we went out to a restaurant, if we thought that the food is appetizing, if we thought that the food is good looking, we will first click the photograph. Regardless of how hungry we are or how appetizing the food is, we would curb the tendency to bite into it immediately. We would want to first click a photograph, upload it to Instagram, upload it to Facebook, and then only consume it. It almost became a part of the human psyche, especially for the millennials. Popularity and relevance of people were judged basis the number of likes that you're getting on Facebook. So the moment you would post something on the Facebook, you would keep a track of how many likes you're getting, how many likes your picture is getting, and the more the likes, the more ego boost you would get. There are a lot of Me Too concepts. So in business also, you would see that if there is one particular concept that is doing very well, a lot of people would start imitating it, and a lot of people would start creating their own versions of that business. So biggest example is if you look at what has happened in the last 5 years in the chai business. Till about 2013-14, chai was predominantly an item that you consumed at home. You made it at home, you served to your parents, you served to your family, and you enjoyed it within the home. Nobody ever thought that there would be a chai revolution in country. Everybody thought that chai is something that you consume inside your home, and if you step out, you would generally step out to drink a coffee. So that is the reason why you had all these cafe coffee days, the Starbucks, the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, the Costa Coffee. All these came into India, or they started from India, and they very quickly built a market share. So drinking coffee in a cafe coffee day or drinking coffee in a Starbucks was cool, but you would not drink chai outside. But then what happened? You had this revolution, which I would say brands like Chai Point, Chai Time, Chayos. So these brands came into India, and rather they started from India, and they started making chai very cool. So they started creating lots of flavors. They started, Chayos is the best example, where Chayos made the entire ambience very attractive, very young and very zitsy. So people would come in, especially the millennials, they would come in with their laptops, they would work at the Chayos table, they would order some specialty and they would enjoy it. And what these chai brands very consciously did was they did not have any type of coffee on their menu. So they made sure that if you're coming into a chai shop, an organized chai shop, you are consuming the chai only, whether it is a normal elaichi chai, adrak chai, or whether it is one of the variants of the new variants that the chai shops are serving. uh, Business was equated with glamour. So people used to focus more on how glamorous the business is, and not so much on whether it is going to be profit making or not. People started thinking that if your business is glamorous, if you're able to make your business aspirational, if you're able to post some amazing photos on Instagram and Facebook, customers would automatically start coming to you. And in some ways it was not wrong. So if you did a very nice photo shoot, if you did a very nice video shoot of your pub and bar, and if you posted it on Facebook, a lot of people would just go there because they had seen that video. So all of a sudden the success of a business started being defined by how glamorous it is, and not by how profitable it is. The last factor, and I would say very interesting factor, is that uh, people started suffering from what is called choice paralysis. So you had so many choices that it was very difficult to make a decision. You step into a mall and you decide that you want to buy a leather bag. The moment you step into a mall, you're inundated with so many brands. You're literally overloaded with them. So there is an Mango, there is an Aldo, there is a Zara, there is a Longchamp. There are so many international luxury brands, leather bag brands that have entered into India. And then you have the Indian variants like High Design, Da Milano. So a customer was spoiled for choice. He would go into all these back shops, and everywhere without exception, he would like something or she would like something. Then as a result of which you suffer from a paralysis. You are not very sure which one to buy, because the moment you decide to buy a Da Milano bag, you start comparing it with what you saw at Aldo. So these are some things that became very common in the last 6 7 years, where the fear of missing out became the biggest driving force. But now what is happening? If you look at what is happening in the last 3 months, things have changed dramatically. There has been a reality check. All of a sudden we are starting to appreciate the value of food on the table. We realize that it is very important to feed ourselves, feed our family members, feed the society, and ensure that people are do not go home hungry. So no longer posting photographs of food on Facebook, although the trend has changed where a lot of people have started becoming chefs. So people cook at home and they try to post those photos on Facebook. But the consumption pattern has changed. People are eating at home, and posting at home is no longer the success. The fact that you yourself have donned a chef's hat, that is something that you want to talk about, that is something that you want to brag about. Popularity and relevance are all of a sudden not judged based on the number of likes. And the best example is Sonu Sood. All of a sudden Sonu Sood has become a cult figure. More people are talking about Sonu Sood than they're talking about Akshay Kumar, which is very surprising, which is something that none of us could have seen even 4 months back. People used to talk about Akshay Kumar and how big a Deshbhakt he is, and how he talks about being a nationalist, and how he talks about building India. But all of a sudden, in the last 4 months, it is Sonu Sood who has actually stepped forward and is working for the society and is working to ensure that the labor class is able to go back home. So Sonu Sood today is much cooler than Akshay Kumar. Me Too is dead. Now nobody wants to know what other business is doing. All that people now care about is what their business is doing, and how do they survive, and how do they eventually thrive. Profitability is suddenly very important. So glamour is now out of the window. People want to invest in businesses that are profitable, that are basic. So roti, kapda, and makan is again back in fashion. People want to make sure that if they're investing their hard-earned money during these difficult times, they only invest it in businesses that can give them bottom line. And today you hardly have a choice. So the choice paralysis is something that is a thing of past today. Here it is very difficult to find things, leave aside being choosy about it. So today, to some extent, beggars cannot be choosers. So today we are in a position where whatever we are getting it, we are valuing it, we are holding it close to our heart. Uh, as a result of all these developments, what you would also notice is that there's a huge change in the way people spend as per their discretion. So there's a significant impact that has happened on discretionary spending. And discretionary spending is something where you spend money basis impulse. So this is not an item that you necessarily have to own or necessarily have to spend on, but you spend on it because you want to. The best example is buying a luxury watch. So when you step inside a mall, you have an option. You can buy a Titan watch, you can buy a Christian Louboutin watch, you can buy a Zegna watch. So there are a whole variety of watches that are available in the market. But today people are afraid of investing in a Rado watch. People are afraid of investing in a Christian Louboutin watch. People want to treat watch as a basic commodity that is primarily required for timekeeping, and that is why you won't mind. The same person who used to spend on a Rado watch today doesn't mind spending on a Titan or an HMT watch for that matter. So all of a sudden, health and safety has become very important. Till about 4 months back, people were not so concerned about whether the restaurant where I'm eating out is clean and sanitized. But today, people would want to see a certificate which clearly tells you that the particular restaurant maintains its cleanliness, maintains its hygiene before you're going to bring your family to that restaurant or even order in from that restaurant. So, despite the fact that deliveries have picked up, if you look at the performance figures of a Zomato or a Swiggy compared to what they were doing about 4 months back, the number of deliveries have reduced drastically. because people are being very cautious. People are being very concerned about the health and safety standards that these restaurants are following. The ticket size is reducing, so all of a sudden people want to spend more on cheaper products than more expensive products. Digital economy is increasing, so everybody wants to pay online. People want to avoid cash transaction because there's a possibility that the cash transaction might also lead to communication of COVID-19 from a already suffering patient. Something that I would say is very disturbing but unavoidable is the loyalty shock that is happening. So a lot of small and medium businesses, a lot of franchise-based businesses have spent a lot of their time, energy, and resources over the last many months, several years, on building a customer database. Customers that are affiliated to them, customers that are coming to them regularly. But all of a sudden, because of the COVID-19 situation, the customer loyalty is getting eroded. The customer is no longer wedded to a particular brand. The customer is no longer affiliated to a particular brand. A very interesting example is uh, about, I think, a couple of months back, there was a case in Delhi where a pizza delivery boy was found to be COVID positive. And this is a pizza chain that has more than 20 outlets across Delhi NCR. And during one of these deliveries, one of the pizza boy was tested and it was found that he has been positive. And then as a result of that, the 70 families that he had delivered to in the last 7 days were all put on quarantine. Now, because of this one case that was discovered, this pizza chain all of a sudden had such a massive slump in sales that across all their more than 20 stores across Delhi NCR, they started reporting zero sales. And it was a mix of company owned, company operated outlets and franchise outlets. Literally everyone in the system started reporting zero sales. The sales anyway were going down, the sales were dipping because of the COVID-19 situation. But because people were still availing pick up and drop, and the pizza chain is particularly famous in Delhi NCR, so they still had some business. They were doing about 50% of what they used to do when COVID-19 was not there. But because of this blunder or this catastrophe, all of a sudden all the stores started reporting zero sales. So the loyalty is getting eroded very quickly. One small mistake or one small escalation from any particular outlet in the business can actually be damaging to everyone. The most important is trust deficit. So consumers all of a sudden do not have trust. They are not very sure if a particular business is following the hygiene norms defined by WHO or the CDC or the ICMR. People are scrutinizing. People are becoming very demanding. People want to know the process. People want to know the logistics. People want to know how the packaging is done before they're able to trust any brand, regardless of how good or how bad the brand is. And the impact is across age groups. So there is no particular age group that is, I would say, suffering more than other groups right now. Although I would venture a guess that millennials in particular have been hit the worst. Reason being that we as millennials are not as saving prone as our uh, parents used to be. So today as millennials, we want to splurge. We splurge on travel, we splurge on luxury, we splurge on leisure, as a result of which our bank balances have always been low. But with this COVID-19 situation coming up and something that none of us has had predicted, it has hit us really hard. Anyway, our bank balances were low. A lot of us have lost their jobs. A lot of us are working on huge salary cuts. So the bank balance is dwindling even further. So as millennials, it is very clear that this is one age group that has suffered the most because of the COVID-19 situation. More importantly, because a lot of the millennials were employed in setups which have been hit the most. So whether it is the restaurant industry, whether it is the salon and spa industry, whether it is the preschool, you would typically see that almost 90% of the staff is millennial. So they're anywhere in between the age group of 18 to 35. So they are the ones who are losing the job. They are the ones who are all of a sudden reduced to pennilessness, and their bank balance anyway was not good. So this is one segment of the society that has been impacted the worst. Although studies are being done, and it is a little too early to say that whether other age groups have been impacted as badly as millennials have. But I strongly feel that the impact will eventually permeate across all age groups, and people across all age groups would be suffering. One thing that has now also become very important and I would say very interesting is that there is this age group of what I call YOLD, which is the young and old. So people who are turning 60 and already had, say, grand retirement plans, all those plans are now crashing. All of a sudden, their bank balances are dwindling. Their children have lost jobs. They had to sell off properties. So all the plans of retiring after 60 and having a comfortable life is now changing. They now all of a sudden realize that they need to work, and they need to maybe work harder than what they had done before. So there will all of a sudden now be a competition to work and a competition to consume. Obviously, the businesses are all getting impacted. So regardless of the size of the business, the nature of the business, the kind of the business, or the age of the business, all businesses are getting impacted because of the COVID-19 situation. But if you look at it and if you study what has been happening in the retail sector or what has been happening in the B2B sector over the last 3 months, you would realize that a lot of these traditionally favorite industries or the franchising favorite industries have taken a nosedive. So whether you talk about the restaurant industry, the salon industry, the preschools, the gyms and fitness chains, their business has all of a sudden reduced to zero. And the revival is not going to be easy. People would not want to go out to a spa and get a massage by a stranger who he does not know. Massage is a process where there's a stranger who gets very intimate with you. Now that you do not know whether the that stranger ever had a COVID history or not, you would want to avoid going to a spa. Same with the salon. So salons have started opening up. Salons are getting some business, but if you talk to the salon owners, you would realize that the business that is coming is only for haircut, which is actually their low margin business. The higher margin business, which is typically your facial, your manicure or pedicure, is something which has still not started seeing any uptake. People want to avoid getting a intimate facial. People want to avoid getting a pedicure and manicure because these are not essential service. The only beauty service that you typically cannot allow is typically cannot avoid is a haircut. So a haircut is something for which people are still venturing it out and getting it done in a salon. Although a lot of people are now actually planning to get the haircut done at home or already are getting the haircut done at home. So salon industry is one industry that is very adversely impacted. Restaurant industry, the only, I would say, the honestly the only model for survival right now is delivery, where they need to ensure that the delivery boy is following all the precautions, the delivery boy is following all the safety and hygiene norms in order to keep building the confidence of the customer. But on the other hand, you will see that there is a very interesting growth for some industries. Some industries that were doing well before COVID-19, but all of a sudden, because of the COVID-19 situation, there has been an exponential growth on the business. The most interesting example and the most expected example is online education. So if you read the statistics in the last 3 months alone, online online educational businesses have seen an almost 1200% growth. This is a growth that is more than the growth that entire edutech industry had seen from 2010 to 2019. The entire growth in the 9 years has been less than what has happened in the last 3 months. And now people do not want to send their children to school or to school. They want education online. They want the education to come to their home. So this is one business that is going to grow and that is going to continue growing exponentially till the time COVID-19 situation is there. Once the COVID-19 situation is taken care of, assuming the virus is eradicated, this business will start stabilizing. The other interesting business, which anyway was on the uptake, was digital wallet business. So brands like Paytm, PhonePe already were having a great ride, but COVID-19 has ensured that the number of people who make a payment through these digital wallets is only increasing. Your video and audio conferencing, food and groceries, e-medicine and e-clinics are something that are going to grow exponentially again because hospitals would want to avoid calling any and every patient to the hospital. They would want to ensure that patients who do not have very severe symptoms, they get medical consultation, they get e-consultation directly through the video conferencing tool. Cleaning and sanitation for us, since we are in this industry, I don't think there could be a better time. People want to keep themselves clean. People want to keep their surroundings clean, keep their premises clean. So cleaning industry is something that is witnessing, again, a very, very solid growth. Consumer purchase behavior has also changed dramatically. So till about 4 months back, the most important determinant in the consumer behavior when it came to making a purchase was the price factor. Today, fear is the most important factor. The consumer wants to be sure that if he's purchasing a product or if he's availing a service from any particular shop or any particular store, that shop or store should be following all the safety norms. The shop and store should be clean and sanitized, and the service or the product that is being offered is also clean and sanitized. Now I'll talk about the 8-point survival guide, and for this I must thank a lot of franchisors and franchise leaders who have spoken to me in the last 3 months. They have shared their own thought process on how the businesses are going to evolve and how they are changing to meet with these demanding times. So these are the 8 survival guide for SMBs and franchise businesses, which should help them survive 2020 and from thereafter start showing growth in 2021, 2022, and so on. So these factors are: there will be a lot of supply chain disruptions. You will have to focus a lot on rationalizing your rentals. You will have to work on making products out of services. You need to look at your team structure. You need to look at your team salaries. You need to figure out the right team for yourself. You need to be present on digital media. You need to be present on social media. You need to be present where the consumer is. You need to think about pricing. So the pricing that worked about 4 months back is not going to work now. You need to focus a lot on building trust. You need to focus a lot on winning the faith of the customer. And the last thing is time for you to own the business. You cannot let your team run the business. You cannot let your staff run the business. It is time to get involved and spearhead the entire business. So I think that one of the very interesting things and one of the more important things that any small and medium business operator needs to look at is finding the right team. And here I very strongly believe in what I call the 4F formula. This is, I feel, very relevant for all small and medium businesses as well as franchise businesses to identify the right team. So this is the right team that has been with you right from the very beginning. And this is the team that almost becomes your family. So it is very important that you fight for your family. You ensure that your family sticks with you. These are very difficult times. These are team members that have always stood with you. These are team members that stood with you when you were nothing. They supported you when you were not a brand. Today, if you're a brand or if you've built your own credibility and credentials in the market, it is very important to value these starting team members who have been with you and who would continue to be with you as you build the business, as you grow out of this COVID-19 situation. But at the same time, it is also very important to evaluate your team internally, because at this point in time, the next 5-6 months are going to be full of grind. So that struggle is going to be there. So it is especially for the businesses that are already showing a downturn. So it is very important to understand what are the kind of employees that are there in the system that do not that are currently not required or currently dispensable. So this is the right time to let go of them. While it is not an easy decision, it can also be heartbreaking. It can be a challenging decision. But at the end of the day, this is a decision that needs to be taken to ensure the survival and continuity of your business. The third is there is all of a sudden this fear fatigue that is setting in. So people who have you're living in societies, you're working somewhere, and wherever you go, you only hear about the bad news. So people are talking about numbers, people are talking about fatality rate, people are talking about shortage of beds in the hospitals, people are talking about shortage of ventilators in the hospitals, people are talking about the migrant issues. So there are a lot of news that you're getting surrounded with and getting bombarded with on a daily basis. This will take a toll on the psychology of everyone, and this will take a toll on the psychology of your team also. So this is the right time to start giving out positive communication, start building the confidence of your team members, and help them understand that while the situation is grim and the situation will continue to worsen, and it would be some time before we are able to get out of it and eventually eradicate COVID-19, but there is still the all is not lost. There is still a huge opportunity out there, and if we are able to follow the precautions, if you are able to ensure that we are maintaining safety and hygiene norms, there is no reason why we should be able to why we should be contracting a virus like corona. So it is very important to uplift the morale of your employees. Maybe have a motivation speaker talk to them, maybe have a psychiatrist or a psychologist talk to them, do gamification of your business. So invest in building the morale of the company, ensure that there is a very healthy interaction that happens in the office, introduce elements of liveliness in the office, at the same time maintain social distancing. So it is very important to help your employees combat this fear fatigue. You need to ensure that they could not get they do not get tired and they do not get burnt out because of the fear psychosis that is there in the market right now. Very importantly, you have to be prepared for the future. The times have changed, the rules of business have to change, the customer has changed. You need to adapt your business, the rules of the business. You need to adapt the way you service the customer to keep up with the difficult times that we are in right now. Now, this is something that I would say is also very commonsensical. So the customer's wallet size has decreased. The customer's propensity to spend on discretionary items has also changed. It has reduced. He's now being very particular. He holds his money very close to his heart, and he would only spend money on where he feels comfortable, where he feels that there's a requirement. And the best example is, let's directly learn it from the legends. So if you look at what McDonald's has done, so if McDonald's has this special product called Mac Aloo Tikki burger. Now this is one burger that is very India particular, and they did a customization of their menu specially for India just to introduce the Mac Aloo Tikki burger to cater to the vast vegetarian population in India. But what they also realized over a period of time was that uh, there is no there is one particular price point at which customers are comfortable buying an item like a Mac Aloo Tikki, because a Mac Aloo Tikki is not an item that you can make very expensive. It would be what I call a staple for vegetarians. So that is why they have experimented with the pricing over a period of last 15 years, and you would see that how it has directly impacted the number of units sold per outlet per day on an average. So what they realized was that they hit a sweet spot when they priced it at 25 rupees in 2012, when they were able to sell 1100 units of Mac Aloo Tikki per outlet per day average. So they have experimented with the pricing basis the input costs, which have changed. And by input cost, I mean the cost of raw material, the cost of electricity, the cost of gas, the cost of water. Basis this, the pricing has fluctuated. And every time they have done their own scientific evaluations and corrections before arriving with the right price points. So this is something that all small, medium, and large businesses need to learn from. At Uclean, what we have realized is that one shoe doesn't fit all. So once we started running the business, initially our idea was that we would have a same pricing across all cities of India, and then franchisees would have the rights to offer some discounts. But what we realized over a period of time, and basis a lot of feedback that we received from our franchisees, was that different cities in India tend to react differently to a service like a wash and iron. So as a result of which, over a period of last 3.5 years, we have realized that different cities would require a different pricing for an essential service like a wash and iron. So from Cochin, which has a pricing of almost 120 rupees per kg, to Dehradun or Ranchi, where we are operating at pricing of 70 rupees per kg. So it is very important to be absolutely flexible, absolutely elastic about the price point of the services or the products that you're offering. Today is the time for deep discounting. Whether you like it or not, this is a time where you will have to deep discount. Whether you are running a product business or you're running a service business, it is very important that you give a lot of discounts, package them beautifully, and push them aggressively to your customers. Make sure that you're sending out SMSs, make sure that you're sending out WhatsApp messages, make sure that you're talking to your customers and informing them about these special discounted offers. At this point in time, it is not going to be easy to acquire a lot of new customers. So it is very important to focus on your existing customers that are your lowest hanging fruits and push these pricing, push these offers to them. For people who are in the product business, it is also the right time to get rid of your dead inventory. So if you have a lot of inventory that is lying in your store for say many months, it is the right time to dispose it off. Offer as much discount as you want, even if it means that there are losses that you would have to incur. Go ahead and incur those losses, because keeping them in your inventory would only compound the losses, and selling them in future would even become more difficult. So this is the right time to offer the best possible discounts that you can and get rid of any old inventory that is lying with you. Now this is something again which is not easy. So this is the time when your input costs have to be negotiated down. So this is the right time to, if you're running a business that requires a store. So as an example, if you run a restaurant, if you run a salon, if you run a laundry store, this is the right time for you to start negotiating with your landlord. A lot of shops are closing down, a lot of stores have closed down, and especially if you look at the neighborhood markets or in the malls, a lot of people are shutting shops. So as is, the landlords do not have a option of or rather the problem of plenty. So it is not like if I'm a landlord in a area like Vasant Kunj in Delhi, it is not that I'm getting approached by a lot of businesses who want to set up their business on my shop. So landlords also don't have the options. So this is the right time for you as a business operator to reach out to your landlord and negotiate hard. Negotiate for rent-free period, negotiate for a waiver of rentals, and negotiate for discounted on rentals. Nobody can do it for you. It is you as the business operator who needs to reach out to your landlord. It is who has to explain to him how your business has gotten impacted and why you would not be able to survive at the current rentals. So if you are running one such business where you feel that the rental is burning you, it is the right time to step out, hard negotiate, ask for rent free period or ask for a rent waiver. And if the landlord is still not budging, you might even have to consider the option of moving out and relocating to a new place. This is also the right time to negotiate on the supply chain. So as a business, you would have your own supply chain, you would have your own suppliers. So you need to negotiate on the pricing, you need to negotiate on the minimum order quantity, and you also need to negotiate for just in time delivery. So for a business that does not have a lot of cash flow, you might also consider negotiating a deal where you place an order just in time basis. So once you have the bandwidth to place an order, then only place an order. So this is the right time to negotiate with your supply chain, negotiate with your landlord, and ensure that you are working out deals which will help you preserve your cash flows. Uh, Now, I think of all the survival guide pointers that I've touched upon, nothing is more important than building the trust. And building your trust has four elements. One is communication, second is costing, third is customization, and fourth is care. So when I'm talking about trust building, one very interesting and relevant example that I would like to talk about is Tata Starbucks. So if you look at what Tata Starbucks, the day they opened up, there was all of a sudden a photograph that went viral on Twitter, went viral on Facebook, and the photograph showed a Starbucks in Bandra in Mumbai, where they showed that a lot of youngsters were standing right outside the Starbucks or inside the Starbucks, sipping their coffee, and they actually were not exercising any kind of caution. So while they were wearing masks, they were really huddled close to each other, and as a result of which, a lot of people on Twitter and on Facebook got offended, and they started lambasting Starbucks as well as the people who went out to Starbucks. And while it is, and rightly so, these customers who went out to Starbucks should have followed the precautions that are required to ensure their own safety and the safety of the other customers. But this also goes on to show how big is the confidence that Tata Starbucks has built in India. People already assume that if they step inside a Starbucks shop, the Starbucks would have done all the things necessary to ensure the safety and hygiene of their place. The people already assume that because Tata and Starbucks are working together, all standards, all guidelines must have been followed, and then there is no way that they would be communicating a coronavirus from a Starbucks premise. The same thing did not happen with any other coffee chain. The other coffee chains are running at 0% capacity, and Starbucks, the day it opened up, started showing 100% capacity utilization. So this is the importance of how trust can play a big role in revamping your business. The the next is, and I think this is an interesting strategy, because as a lot of small and medium scale businesses today do not invest enough time and effort on digital and social media. A lot of SMBs believe that their customer is not online, or their customer does not follow or make purchase decisions online. Nothing could be more wrong. Especially in the last 4 months, if you look at statistics, the amount of time an average consumer is spending online has increased by almost 150%. And this is Indian numbers. These are not global numbers. So the amount of time that a consumer today is spending online, whether on his mobile phone, whether on the laptop, and looking for options to buy, looking for options to purchase, that number has increased by 149% in the last 3 months. So literally every consumer today is online. In almost 50% of India is an internet user today. That's how high the internet penetration is there in India today. People are there online, people are surfing online, people are making purchase decision online. So this is the time for every small business, regardless of what you have done in the last 3-4 years. It is the time for you to move online. It is the time for you to invest in technology. It is the time for you to invest in digitizing your business. There is a 3L strategy that I would like to touch upon, which is listen. Listen to what your consumer wants you to hear. Listen to what he's doing. Listen to what he's surfing. Listen to what he wants. And all this listening can be done online. Simply go to Facebook and see what your friends are posting about, or what the consumers are posting about. If you're careful, you would be able to listen. You will be able to understand what is happening. You need to learn from it. You need to know what the consumer on Instagram is today looking for. If he wants to, say, buy a cloth, if sure he wants to buy a cloth, what kind of clothes does she want to buy? It's summertime. Does she want polka dots? Does she want to buy a mini skirt? Does she want to buy a top? What is it that she's wanting to buy? You can garner all this. You can get a lot of feedback if you're online, if you do your own Google strategy, if you do your own Facebook strategy. Once you have learned from it, you need to leverage it. You need to start designing your own digital marketing strategy, own social media strategy, and start reaching out to these customers. uh, Very surprisingly, almost 50% of SMBs in India today do not have a web presence. By a web presence, I do not mean that they do not have a website. They do not even have a page on Instagram. They do not even have a page on Facebook. So this is the right time. This is the right time to get ahead of your competition by investing in digital marketing. And it should not be a very heavy investment. You just need, there are a lot of online courses that are available. There are a lot of YouTube videos that are available. You can actually start your own digital business. You can actually start your own social media business. But there is no way that you can expect to grow from here if you run away from social media and digital media. It is also very important to own and understand your customer. And here there are 4 important questions that you should always think about. One is the who. Who is the customer? Which age group does he fall in? Is she a male? Is she a female? Or everyone is my customer? So this is one question that only you can answer for yourself. The second is, why does he give you business? So what are the USPs of your business which attract him to come to you? So as an example, if I'm running a laundry chain, I need to understand, why does the customer prefer me over a local dhobi? Or why does a customer prefer me over some other laundry chain that is also there in the business. So it is very important to understand from your past experience on what is it that makes you click. The third part is what would make him stop. So third part is, where is my business an essential business? Will he continue coming to me, or is my business a dispensable business? And this is one question that a lot of luxury product sellers would face now, right now. So a lot of customers would not want to buy a watch. A lot of customers would not want to invest in a jewelry. So what would it take for me to get him back to buy a watch, or get him back to buy a jewelry? Maybe I offer him an installment based scheme. So this is something that only you as a business operator can answer for yourself. And the fourth is, when would he switch? And this is where it becomes very dangerous. So any business today has its competition. The competition is also vying for the same customer that you are vying for. If you own the customer, what would it take for him to make a switch to your competition? Is your competition offering lower pricing? Is your competition offering a more comfort to the customer in terms of the precautions that are being exercised? You need to understand that, and you need to make sure that you're building all these changes into your business model to ensure that your customer sticks to you. This is the right time to become an operator. So I know that there are a lot of small and medium businesses where the investor is different from an operator. So say you set up a franchisee of a salon chain while you are yourself working somewhere else, and you just have a team that is managing the salon, and they report to you on a daily basis. This was all good till about 4 months back, but this has to change now. You have to own your business, you have to start operating it, you have to start running it, and you have to reduce your dependence on others. You already know what is happening with COVID-19. People are coming in, people are joining, people are leaving, they are going back to their home. A lot of labor class, they will keep coming to tier 1 cities, and then they will keep going back on their whims and fancies, or whenever they feel they're uncomfortable. So you need to know, or you need to ensure that you're not dependent on your staff. While it is always important to encourage them, to motivate them, to enable them and equip them, but at the same time, you also need to understand your business as well as anyone else does. So this is the right time. If you have been running the business as an investor, the business won't survive. You need to jump into the business, become an owner, become an operator. And finally, what's the way forward? So like I said before also, right now there is no end in sight. So it is very difficult to predict when this COVID-19 pandemic will get over. There is no timeline to it. Once the vaccine comes in, people will start coming up with timelines. But till the time vaccine is not there, there is no way this COVID-19 situation is going to improve in the next 4 to 6 months. So this is the new normal. Make sure that your business is prepared for the new normal. Make sure that your staff members are practicing all the guidelines that are being recommended by the WHO or by the CDC. Make sure that you have enough face masks and gloves stacked up in your store. Make sure that you have enough sanitization equipment that is available in the store. Make sure that you only call your team on a need basis. So make sure that you're never overpopulating your business. Social distancing norms are being followed. Now, very importantly, this is the right time to take some very tough decisions. You need to cut costs. So whether it means sacking some employees, whether it means reducing inventory, whether it means reducing your or making your workplace less glamorous compared to what it was about 4 months back, you need to start investing heavily in cutting costs. You need to invest your time, you need to invest your analytical skills, but make sure that you're able to reduce your operating expenses by at least 20 to 30%. Be prepared to hustle. The moment you start operating your business, you can take care of the work that was being done by 1 or 2 people. So you're able to cut down those costs. It is the right time to get fully into the business and take a deep dive and run the business as if you own it. Also, you have to be realistic. There are certain businesses that might not recover. While I would not like to name the sectors, but obviously there are a lot of sectors which will find the going very difficult. So this is the right time to also introspect, see if there are costs that you can cut the costs, run the business. But despite the cutting the cost, if you realize that over the period of next 3-4 months or 5 months, the business is not showing any signs of revival, then it might not be the best decision to continue forward. So there might be the toughest decision that you will have to take at some point in time in 2020, where you might have to end up shutting down your business. So idea is that hope for the best, but also be prepared for the worst. So I think that's all from my side. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them up. I'm also doing a one-on-one session tomorrow. So you guys can also register for that. The information has already been shared. And I would be happy to do a 30 minutes one-on-one session to answer any specific questions that you have pertaining to your business. So I would like to thank each one of you for taking some time out from your busy schedule and for actually registering for this webinar. You have been a wonderful audience. It has been a pleasure interacting with each one of you. And I am available to connect tomorrow as well. If anyone has any specific question, we can set up a 30 minutes one-on-one with you. You can come with your questions. I'll try and answer them basis my own understanding and my own experience of SMB business, and basis a lot of data and advisory that I have collected from a lot of franchise leaders and business leaders. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for joining so early in the morning today. Have a great day ahead. Stay safe. Stay at home. Thank you so much.